Hello and welcome. Today I have something more special to share. Well, it's special from my perspective. Today I want to share on who I think I am as a being and how I came to those conclusions. And obviously, or maybe it's not obvious, but this is loosely held on to. The becoming is constant. So it's not like once we know who we are, you have arrived into something or anything like that. But we do arrive into an acceptance of who we have discovered to be within aspects of ourselves. And that acceptance is enough of a platform, like a stability that is being created so that the next unfolding of who we are can come in. And so it's from that perspective that I'm sharing. And this is a huge deal for me. Obviously, it's more personal, more transparent, more intimate. But 2 days ago, something happened that kind of made this hold that I had, right? Because this is, how should I say? This is really out there for me. I share some of these things here and there, but uh, never quite fully okay with using the words that I'm gonna use, right? Just in one line, one video, one expression. And I also realized that holding on to this identity complex or the assumption or the expectation that I kind of held of what I should be or who I wanted to be instead, were still in my way of my full creative expression. And this is kind of why I'm sharing this. One, as an example that's no longer necessary. And kind of the reason as a collective, not just me. So I'm stepping into that with this video, I guess. But second, what happened 2 days ago, I woke up and I felt the call. Now, if you felt the call before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. This is just a knowing. Like when I say just, it's like simply. It's like complexity was made simple within a moment. And you knew with such clarity what your purpose is. And when I say purpose, maybe I'm using these words loosely because it's just like whatever words. But I do want to be specific here because this call to purpose is not go-getter, this masculine structure that we just uh, align and focus and trot ahead. Not at all. It is a very balanced, it's still feminine leading, but the masculine is very balanced within this. And so the space of the call is much more about your creative expression, who you are, the essence in application. And why this is huge, right? Why, and this idea, maybe I should back up, this idea of the new earth, the waves of volunteers, it's always been kind of like, it's an interesting idea. It's cool. I can see that. I don't know how truthful, like how much of that is truth. But when we create looseness, when we use these words loosely a little bit and allow more of a space, like a higher frequency. It's like, okay, yeah, those are just translations, right? And they're translated the best we can. Of course, it's more to that than how it's being presented. And now, all of a sudden, for me, it's like, holy crap, this stuff is becoming so real at an intangible level. And this is what I'm talking about. This purpose and this creative expression is not so much in the 3D. It will have 3D implications, obviously. But the movement, the alignment comes from the energetic leadership space. And what is happening, this love that many of us have access to, this love is gigantic. This love is so unlimited. It is so free that we still don't understand. And so this new earth, this new space that we are moving into, it needs to be cascaded into manifestation. And that doesn't just happen. I don't want to mean we're still in non-doing, but the movement is happening. Does that make sense? And so we need to align and come together. This is a group project. And I'm feeling that that's why the call is not personal to me or anything. Because we are cascading down models of love, choice within love. We don't know how to live without duality. We get lost. The freedom is something that we are many times not equipped. We don't have capacity to work within. And so we get lost many times, right? So this call is, we need to create new models of relationships, new models of definitions. We need to apply this love. And it is only through this creative expression, because it cannot be from the mind. If we try to create it from the mind, we already know that that's a false creation, because the mind can only operate from memory. And so because we cannot know how this stuff is and how it looks like until it's created, and then we can look at it, then we can say, okay, this is the translation, this is how we look, this is how it looks. Now we can bring in the mind, articulate, correlate, do all that analytical things. And so this is a beautiful balance between the feminine and the masculine within us, because finally the masculine is open to listen to a new way of leadership, a new way of using power, right? And I'm power here is energy, like wattage, not control. And the masculine has to be more receptive, and it's struggling with the release of not knowing what exactly it's doing, where exactly it's going. So the constant self-regulation to calm that not knowing, to be in this self-love space, it takes a lot of self-mastery. It takes a lot of discipline. to be able to allow this whole new love creation. But I'm talking about not this fuzzy love, we're going to all be in circles. I'm talking about how this love looks in our partnership relationships, our family dynamic, uh, our extended family dynamic, our friendships, coworkers, businesses. Those are the foundational pieces from which we can create business models, new type of contracts, industries. Um, it all starts with how we view our perception and our definitions of those things. And so all that work is very energetic first. And those models have to be created. So this is what all this is about, right? This is the purpose. This is the call, the way I understand it. And it's funny because I'm sitting with this energy and it's like, holy cow, this has never been so clear as now. And later in the day, I go on YouTube. Carrie Kay comes out. She's another YouTuber. If you don't know her, check her out. I think that's her channel name, actually. She talks about the awakening of the mega dragon, the mega red dragon, who is a guide and a watcher over this realm, and he went into slumber to allow for the creation of the false matrix. And now that he woke up, he's calling reinforcements, galactic, but also everyone here, right? And I'm just blown away, right? Because I'm feeling exactly this, and then immediately, because this is the struggle, right? Like, how real exactly is this? And the other struggle, it's like, well, spirituality and Kundalini stuff is for those kind of, you know, dedicated on this stuff. It's like yoga teachers and teachers, and you know, for the others with careers and families and the 3D life and things like that. For those, spirituality just provides tools, right? And I'm participating in spirituality to help me and guide me on my 3D path, and my even if I'm not exactly using those words, but my 3D life is where I live, and the spirituality part is somewhere else, and I can go within spirituality, you know, do my yoga, do my breath work, and then I use that alignment to move in my 3D. Well, Kundalini doesn't think like that. And once it activates, it doesn't care about your career plans, about your, you know, 5-year plans, your 10-year plans, your retirement gigs, whatever. It's going to become you into your purpose. And if you volunteered to be one of these volunteers, to be who you're gonna be, you can be kicking and screaming and do whatever. Um, it'll be just a hard path, but the ego has no chance against the soul. This is what I've learned. And so, long introduction, but I thought it was kind of paramount, because that's the big picture, and it has to start with, who are you within this big picture of what's going on? But what I learned about myself, and um, again, this was a very tough journey. It was very difficult. Ego deaths are a witch with a B. Um, a lot of sorrow, lots of depression, lots of fighting. Um, so I'm saying these words, but not like, oh my God, this is who I am, you guys. No, no, no. This is, I hope I'm not going to cry. Anyway, so the first thing that kind of came up for me was that I'm a grid worker. I work with the individual grids, but they are interconnected with planetary grids, with cosmic grids, with you as the geometric shape that holds the resonance grid from which material can be held together and appears to be material together, right? Those type of grids. Then it moved into, oh, what was next? I think it was the dragon. Oh, no, no, no. It was before the dragon. It was this integration specialist, right? From the grids, like I know that I have multidimensional counterparts kind of shown up as maybe alien beings. Let's just say it like that. But I also know that is me. And then it moved into, oh, but you're also a dragon. That was harder to accept. And then the absolute most difficult thing that I had to overcome within this identity was the star. And so it started very slow. And this is how spirit works through you, right? It starts off with the introduction, the seed. Here's an idea of who you might be. And it's full of denial. It's full of, oh, it must be a symbolism. It's full of justification because you can't possibly perceive that this could be you. And so the next phase is a bunch of proof. Here's one thing, another thing, another thing. To then, it's kind of like an allowing, right? You're now allowing enough of the idea that, holy cow, this might be myself. Can I take on this other role? And then it's like, okay, fine, fine. You know, I must be that. It's okay. That acceptance then allows for the next seeding, and it goes in stages like that. So with the grid, I had a hypnotic hypnosis done, and this hypnosis was by by a lady who closed. She did a paperwork. She was a closer. We closed on a house, and we were done with the business. We put our stuff away, and we started chit chatting a little bit more on more personal things. And she was expressing her anger, really, with her family because she just completed this hypnotherapy course, and her family, none of them allows her to do a hypnotherapy session on them. And I'm like, oh yeah, I heard about those things. You know, I think they're pretty fun. Yeah, I'll volunteer. And this lady, turns out, she was super into the new earth, um, the the flash of of the flash of light, resurrection, or or judgment day, or whatever. I don't know. It was a series of things, that kind of left me like, okay, well, whatever. Sure, it's interesting. Like, whatever, whatever floats your boat, lady. But I'm willing to try it. And so it was on my birthday because I took the day off from work, and we did this hypnotherapy session. I kind of went in it, had no idea. So she took me through a bunch of past lives. I understood many patterns within this life based on the patterns that kept playing out. But then she took me into who I am and my purpose and all these things. And turns out I was working on this connecting bridge on the mountain that we were about to move on. We were moving at the base of this mountain. And the reason why we moved there was because physically there was some anchoring that had to be taking place. And I was physically creating the structures of the connecting pieces of this bridge. But the structural pieces were very much electric. And so think of it, it was kind of like maybe a chat room where beings from different realms could coexist, could come together, and they could communicate, let's just say, in the same language, in the same meaning. Uh, uh, what am I looking at? Comprehension level or something like that. Or there's a translation of meaning and comprehension where communication can happen interdimensionally. And so I come out and throughout, I'm telling her about it, and the stuff with the past lives is like, okay, yep, that's exactly right. The other stuff was like, well, I don't know how true that is. She believed everything that I said, and that had more of an impact to me than what I kind of lived. But I have to say, the energy that was with me for the weeks to come was also something that stayed with me, that kind of started to create a belief that I actually had an experience that was valid, that was real, that there was something there. So I'm explaining this to a friend of mine, and she's like, holy cow, you had an experience like Dolores Cannon's stuff. And the same, this lady, she's like, you are gifted. You have no idea who you are. I'm like, okay, lady, whatever, Because at that time, again, I couldn't conceive some of these things, so I couldn't hear, I couldn't accept her truth, and that's the path, that's the unfolding. And so this friend put me on Dolores Cannon, and I got onto that wave, read everything that I could. And one thing led to another. I started to actually work more and more with grids. I started to meet people that were like, oh, definitely waves of volunteers. I'm a bridge, I'm a front runner, I'm a integrator, I'm a whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, like, it is for real. And my world became more accepting. My world became, of course, this is real. It became more normal in my healings and my healing practice, working with grids as as the as the fifth and sixth dimensional, seventh dimensional sometime self, where the resonance setting was becoming way more frequent. It was becoming way more accepting. I started to work with Metatron more and more. And oh my God, this is also another funny story. And this is where I'm coming from. Metatron had a lot of popularity, and there's some channels. Also, channelings were kind of like fan fiction to me. I it wasn't like that I didn't believe them, but it was like an alternate reality. If this alternate reality was real, and it was real, but again, as a different universe from where I was. And so I literally thought Metatron was symbolic, made up figure, probably inspired from the Autobots. He was just a transformer or something. And Metatron started to come into my healings and my meditations. And in those spaces, everything is real, everything is true, everything is like, of course, this is how things work. And then you get out of that space and you're like, oh crap, this dude is real. Okay, I need to I need to study this guy. Like, so I had a long ways to go, right? So then once that kind of stabilized and I was becoming more proficient, I was becoming way more stable, more at home, I started to get these glimpses. And these glimpses are not so much in meditation. They're showing up more as I'm drinking my morning coffee and I'm looking, down into the valley, and I'm getting this, it's not a deja vu, but it's kind of like this deja vu feeling that I'm in the spaceship. There's a control room, and I know there's like a being, but I am that being, so I can't quite see because I'm seeing through the being's eye as I'm also looking out into the valley. I'm looking out into the control room of that spaceship. And it's been, a few times of those things. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what to do with that. So of course I go to my friends and they're like, I know that spaceship. I know that control room that you're describing. And, at this point I'm like, okay. So we decided to have a hypnotherapy session together. And we went into our first incarnation on the planet. And I used to, what I incarnated first was as a bird. And the first thing was that came through was a huge wave of frustration. And that frustration is has been an ongoing thing. The frustration is very much with the body, but that frustration came through so clearly because intuitively I could not move the bird. So I could see out of my eyes as a bird, and I was giving it the commands as an intuitive impulse, and there was no movement. And I remember I just got out, and I was so frustrated with the team. I I just rambled on what a bad job this is, how inferior this is, and to this day, the body, I feel like, I overcame that, but it was just like, how am I supposed to do anything with this meat suit? It doesn't do what I needed to do. So how can I possibly create? How can I do all these things from such huge restriction at a very physical level. And then I saw the lab. It's still like within the spaceship, maybe. But this lab is where the human body or bodies are being created. And there is a simulation. There is a lot of, creation and upgrades. And then they're literally running it through the simulation. And when the simulations are ready to be incarnated, if it's a big upgrade, they get incarnated upon birth. But then there are upgrades that can be administered live during the incarnation, and these show up as packages, as these cubes. These cubes are scrunched up code, and I've seen them before. They literally just arrive on the planet within these rods of transmissions, and they get assimilated through the body, but they're kind of like zip files. So they still have to willingly be activated within the body. Then they take root, and then they move through the nervous system into the body and become useful. So take all this, however, as I took it, like, okay, this is interesting. But what I got out of that was that I work on a team with people on this integration project. We're working to create an effectiveness of integration. So not only energy work, like here, right, or even cosmically, when these waves of love come through, the issue is how well do we absorb? What is our capacity for us to make use of that energy? So, or individually, if you do have any type of healing, or herbal protocol or whatever, it all comes down to that integration, that embodiment of that medicine. Does it do anything? Do you have capacity in your body to allow that type of technology to help and to upgrade the body? So this made sense because also this knowing was developed more and more that my life is not really personal to me. I think it really helped me a lot through my development because I don't really take things personal. I just can't take things personal to me. Yes, I get triggered, but once that triggered moves on, it's like, okay, what is the point of all this, right? And I've always viewed, not always, but I started to view my life literally as a project. And after that hypnotherapy sessions and understanding how we have very specific roles within the integration project of the mechanics of how energy translates within not only the body, but within the planet, the all the pathways of integration, of translation, of higher density into lower density. It just made so much sense to me. It just created this peace within me that I can work with that, because that makes way more sense than anything else that I've dabbled into why I'm here, what's my purpose, within this frustration, right? That this body, this environment, it is so oppressive and restrictive. It is so small. And so finally, I came to that arrival within that there are literal aliens of me within my multidimensionality, that even though they're, let's just say they're ahead in time, we are able, because I'm so aware, I have a capacity within my awareness. It's beyond time like that, because time doesn't exist anyway, right? So now we're literally just talking about timelines as these tubes within just structures. I mean, it's just structures of density, but there is a direct correlation within my multidimensional self. So somehow my mind wrapped itself around this idea, and shortly after, this little dragon started to come in my meditations. And I had no idea about dragons. I really thought they're made up characters. Um, like everything else, like, oh God. And it was just kind of prancing around, and I'm like, okay, am I getting delusional again? Like, is this real? But no, it just kept coming. So again, I go to my friends, and they're like, oh my God, that's so nice. Dragons are amazing. And I'm like, oh, they're real? Yes. What do you mean? They're real. Oh my God, the energy that they have. I'm like, okay, well, I need to read about this and, get up to date with what's going on with dragons. And coincidentally, around that time, my children were super into dragons. They read all the Wings of Fire books. They were into 3D printing of dragons. Well, they still are. Dragon fest everywhere, right? And so one day they were watching How to Train Your Dragon. One of them, the second one, I think. And so I sat down, with my kind of newly, freshly validated experience that dragons are real. And I stood next to my daughter. She was 9 years old or so at that time, 9. And I'm like, dragons are real. And she gives me this look. It's like, are you for real, Mom? Of course, dragons are real. And that was like the cherry on top, that, okay, like, I really don't know so much. Then I had a series of meditations. I went to these events where she guided us through this kind of, it's kind of like a hypnosis meditation. And it was about finding the trailblazer within you. And the first one was about moving up this mountain, and I was walking and following this path up the mountain. And as soon as I got on top, I kind of transformed into a dragon and flew off, and I was just flying over these mountaintops. I'm like, that's cool. It was so nice. You just see the view, but again, I couldn't conceive that it was me in this natural state within this environment. And I love high altitude. Anything above 12,000 feet is just like home. It is like the heart just expands, and I don't. it's like you feel how close you are to God. You know, like I can't explain it more than that. It's just divine. I love that. So anyway, I'm back into that feeling, and I leave that experience like, yeah, that's nice. And then 6 months later, this lady has another event very similar, and I go again. It's again very similar. There's a dragon, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's nice. Slowly, more of these ideas come through. Then I have an experience where I actually turn into the dragon. Like my skin is ripping open and the scales come out. And now at this point, I come out of that experience and it's like, okay, what if I am a dragon also? Like, what does this mean? It just means frequency wise, you're just working with dragon frequency, but more so when you work with dragon frequency, it's very easy to recognize other dragon frequency. And it's just more collaboration. It's just more variety, you know. But that was, it took some time, and that was like harder. Like, okay. Um, Again, because you truly, like with alien, the alien idea, I think Bashar helped a lot with that, maybe. I don't know, my mind was, it was just easier for my mind to digest the dragon, and the same thing. It's like, oh, whatever. I don't I don't know what else it means. It's just variety of frequency. Um, and it does show up in healing, right? Like dragon energy is very useful in healing work. Yeah. Okay. Um, Especially with collective healing projects. Yeah. Okay. The most difficult things, the integration thing, was this idea of me being a star. And it started showing up. I was doing these collective wave readings, and I was tuning in to these collective waves, and the star was always there. And after a while, I'm like, what is the star? Like, who is this? Because it's just like above me, and I see this direct line. I just can't figure out who it is, what it is. And somebody said, well, maybe it's Sophia. And I'm like, it's not Sophia. Sophia is right there. Like, when I think Sophia, there's actually two stars. There's just the one that I'm talking about, and then the other. And then somebody else was like, oh no, it's whatever. Like, I don't remember what it was. And I'm like, no, that person or that being is over there. Like, it, and it just kept moving on. And you gotta love YouTube. But I do have to say this, as the seeking and this curiosity, because it was like obsessive now. Like, what is this frequency? Like, I can't put my finger on it, but I can't let it go either. I started to get more separate from the 3D. I started to get way more depressed. I started to get into my longing of something else. Like, why am I here again? Like, what is this body? I could not understand what this body was. How is this even possible? Like, what is the body, and how can it be, and how can the energy flow through it when it's nothing? You know, anyway, so I would go through these very existential crises, and it was getting deeper, like the depression, the cry fests, just kind of spontaneous. I wake up, I would have a great day. By 11 o'clock, I would be on my floor crying. Half an hour later, I would be great. I would pull myself together. 2 days later, repeat the cycle. It was just getting worse and worse. YouTube, this reader that I don't subscribe. I don't even remember who it was, but I'm like, you know what? Sure, I'll click on this, whatever. At that point, I was kind of like hopeless, let's just say. This lady goes on to tell me how there's a star, there's this bright light that's kind of my guide, but I'm seeking, and I'm like, who are you? Like, how is this possible? And she kind of goes in circle for a little bit, trying to figure it out, and then she pauses, and it's like, oh, well, this is why you're having trouble figuring this out. This is you. Okay. I stopped the reading and deny. What is this? And from there, I probably hit the low of my low of the depression spout. Not as low as my dark night of the soul, but this is a smaller version of that. It was just like maybe 2-3 months or so. Thank God. Then I volunteered to this festival, and I helped the speaker person set up, and they're like, no, join us in this meditation. So I join in this meditation. She takes us through this hallway into this room where there's a mirror, and we need to look at this mirror to see in reality who it is that we are. So I step up to this mirror, and of course, the reflection in the mirror that I see is just a star, just a star shining. And the frustration, all these emotions, my depression shows up. We go on and we share. It comes to me, and I'm just bawling my eyes out, at this event that I'm supposed to be working at. And people, some people really understood, and they're like, yeah, that pain, that longing is real. Others were like, whoa, what is she talking about? But the lady was very, who did the workshop, very understanding, very compassionate. She gave me some advice. Slowly, I'm like, okay, what if it is this star, but I've never heard about this before. Again, of course, I've never heard of anything before. So a couple of months later, we go on this trip, and we stay at this bed and breakfast inn type thing. It was the last room they had available, of course. Next to my side of the bed was a little bookshelf with maybe 10 books. One of them was a copy, a translation of the Bhagavad Gita. I've never read it. I've never read anything, maybe just quotes or, things like that, but never actually read anything from any actual translation. So I open up chapter 4. A translation or a better I don't even know what it was called. But anyway, I read chapter 4 entirely, because once I picked it up, it was, I couldn't put it down. And within that, it said that one of our one self, we are actually all stars, but not stars in this cosmos, right? In our inner cosmology. What? This is real? So that was my acceptance, where I'm like, okay, this is a known thing. This is who we are in a higher emanation. This star being is a self, the energy is self-resourceful. Does it make sense? Like, the energy comes right from source. It is a freedom, it is a love that is never depleting. And that's our essence. And I could finally put that whole thing to rest. My depression just went away in days. I came back to my stability, and I kind of moved on from that. But that's the whole point. This is my whole sharing here. Regardless of who you are within this societal construct, that doesn't really matter. But coming into who I am within this being of whatever it is. I just gave you how I came into my knowing. There are so many versions because this creative expression is varied. And if we don't start within calling things loosely, but the calling is arrival within the acceptance, so that the next unfolding can simply unfold, and we can do from non-doing, effortless. And it just starts here, within this call, within this purpose. So hopefully there was something from here for you here within this inspiration. This is bigger than we understand with our mind, because we live beyond the mind, and we need the unfolding for us to say, okay, now I understand. And yet there's this knowing, right? The knowing is there. And I think we do need this collective project to kind of inspire each other into the courage to step in it already, to end this weird suffering of I'm clinging so hard to some other identities through some other expectations, because my mind can't really wrap itself around things. There's a ripeness to that. You know, you can only force things so much. But these stories of creation, the stories of becoming, do help. So this is my contribution to the call, to my own self-expression, my creative expression, my action into stepping into the purpose, the collective project. So what is your story? I can't wait for some sharing if you feel called to. I would love to hear from you. And I will feel you. I will see you in the ethers. Bye.